When we think of ancient Rome, we often picture a world of opulent emperors, fierce gladiators, and grand conquests that stretched across continents. In a civilization known for excess, there emerged a philosopher king whose life and legacy shone not through conquest alone, but through compassion, introspection, and moral integrity. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and he remains one of the most celebrated Roman emperors, regarded not only for his leadership, but also for his timeless philosophical wisdom. Born nearly 1900 years ago, on April 26, 121 AD, Marcus Aurelius Antoninus grew up in a Rome that was at the very height of its power and grandeur. Think of it as a time when the world's center of gravity lay right within that empire's borders. Rome was a cultural melting pot, brimming with wealth, political intrigue, and intellectual activity. To understand Marcus Aurelius, we need to step into this world and witness how a boy from a noble family evolved into a ruler who would earn the title of philosopher king. Marcus was born into a prominent and wealthy family. His father passed away when Marcus was just a young child, leaving him to be raised by his grandfather and other relatives. Even in his youth, Marcus displayed a reflective and serious nature. While many children of the aristocracy were indulging in the luxuries of Roman high society, Marcus found himself drawn to quiet study and contemplation. He was fascinated by philosophy, which was rare, considering that philosophy then wasn't just an academic discipline. It was a guidebook to living a good and honorable life. He was soon adopted by Antoninus Pius, who became emperor in 138 AD. Through this adoption, Marcus Aurelius suddenly found himself in the line of succession for the throne. But if you imagine a power-hungry youth eagerly awaiting his crown, think again. Marcus was reluctant, even uneasy about wielding such power. In fact, when the Emperor Hadrian, Antoninus Pius's predecessor, first identified Marcus as a potential heir, Marcus was torn between his desire for a life of thoughtful philosophy and his duty to Rome. Under Antoninus Pius's guidance, Marcus received a well-rounded education. His tutors were some of the empire's greatest minds, including the respected rhetoric instructor Fronto and various Stoic and Greek philosophers who introduced him to the teachings of Epictetus and Heraclitus. Young Marcus Aurelius absorbed these lessons like a sponge, shaping his worldview around principles of virtue, self-discipline, and rational thought. For him, ruling was not about personal glory. It was about moral responsibility, about serving the common good. When Antoninus Pius passed away in 161 AD, Marcus Aurelius ascended the throne. But rather than rule alone, he insisted on sharing the empire with Lucius Verus, an unprecedented move for Rome. This act wasn't just a political maneuver, it was a reflection of Marcus's philosophical ideals: cooperation, fairness, and balance. While Lucius Verus took a more traditional path, military campaigns and managing borders, Marcus Aurelius honed his philosophical approach to governance. They co-ruled until Verus's death in 169 AD, after which Marcus guided the empire on his own. As emperor, Marcus Aurelius faced a world of challenges. The empire was vast, stretching from Britain's cold frontiers to the sands of North Africa and far into the Middle East. Managing such a sprawling territory was like trying to keep a massive tapestry from unraveling at the edges. Constant wars on the frontiers tested his leadership. The Parthian War in the east and the Marcomannic Wars along the northern borders sapped Rome's resources and energy. In these moments of crisis, Marcus Aurelius's philosophical resilience was put to the ultimate test. Imagine trying to rule a superpower with the constant hum of conflict in the background. Imagine being forced away from the comfort of Rome to spend years on freezing battlefronts. Marcus Aurelius did exactly that. He spent much of his later reign not inside the marble halls of the imperial palace, but encamped along the Danube River, struggling to maintain security and unity in the face of relentless pressures from beyond Rome's borders. If the wars weren't enough, a deadly pandemic, known as the Antonine Plague, ravaged the empire. Historians believe it may have been a form of smallpox or measles, and it killed millions. Death hung in the air, creating shortages of manpower, declining morale, and economic hardship. Marcus Aurelius, who could have abandoned his Stoic principles and become a tyrant in response to these crises, instead leaned further into his philosophy. He saw hardship not as an excuse for cruelty, but as a crucible in which moral character was tested and refined. It was during these trying times that Marcus Aurelius wrote what became his greatest legacy, his Meditations. Written in Greek and never intended for publication, Meditations is essentially a personal diary, a collection of notes, reminders, and philosophical explorations recorded while he was on campaign. These writings aren't flashy speeches or grand manifestos. They're intimate reflections meant to encourage him to remain upright, compassionate, and rational, even when the world around him was falling apart. In these pages, Marcus Aurelius grapples with fundamental human questions that still resonate today. How do we deal with pain and suffering? How do we maintain inner peace in chaos? How do we act justly, kindly, and wisely, no matter what life throws our way? These timeless concerns are what make Marcus Aurelius's works so enduringly popular. He teaches us that living with virtue is possible even in times of extreme adversity. As he grew older, Marcus Aurelius never lost sight of his responsibilities. He continued to fight wars to secure Rome's borders, all the while administering the empire's affairs, writing his philosophical notes, and trying to preserve stability. He championed policies that were relatively moderate, seeking justice in legal matters and showing leniency when possible. He may not have been perfect. No emperor ruling an ancient empire could claim that, but he consistently tried to live up to the ideals he set for himself. After nearly 2 decades of rule on his own, 20 years marked by strife, disease, and economic struggles, Marcus Aurelius died on March 17, 180 AD. He was in his late 50s, having spent much of his life wrestling with duties he never fully desired, shouldering burdens no one person should bear. His passing marked the end of the Pax Romana, the golden age of Roman peace and prosperity. The empire would soon enter a period of turbulence and decline under his successors. But Marcus's story doesn't end with his death. Long after the empire fell, his writings remained. The Meditations survived, copied and cherished by generations. During the Renaissance and later the Enlightenment, thinkers rediscovered his words. Stoicism, the philosophy he cherished, saw countless revivals, influencing military leaders, business executives, and everyday people seeking guidance through hardship. Today, he's often cited in self-help books, inspirational blogs, and classroom discussions on ethics and leadership. Marcus Aurelius's life can be seen as a grand balancing act between power and humility, between public duty and private reflection, between the sword and the pen. He reminds us that true strength isn't just about conquering lands or accumulating wealth. Real strength is the courage to remain principled in the face of adversity, to seek wisdom and peace within yourself, and to treat others with compassion, even when the world is anything but kind. In a way, we're all still students of Marcus Aurelius, learning from his quiet notes scribbled nearly 2 millennia ago. Through the centuries, he teaches us that no matter how turbulent our own times may feel, the path of reason, virtue, and understanding remains open to us. We can read his words, reflect on them, and find a bit of that guiding light he left behind. In doing so, we keep alive the spirit of a philosopher king who showed that greatness can rest not only on the strength of an empire, but also on the depth of a single man's character.